If you ever deliver food after midnight, listen to me. If your GPS takes you into the middle of the woods, turn around. I didn't, and it's the biggest mistake I've ever made. My name is John, and this happened when I was 21. Back then, I was a college student in West Virginia. Money was always tight, so I worked the night shift at a small pizza place a few miles from campus. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid my rent and bought my textbooks. Most nights were the same. We'd clean the kitchen, count the register, and lock the doors around 1 in the morning. That Friday started exactly like every other shift. At 1:02 a.m., I had already taken off my apron and was reaching for my car keys when the phone rang. I looked at my manager. He sighed. "We're closed," he said. "I know," I replied. For some reason, I picked up anyway. "Mike's Pizza, this is John." There was silence. Not the kind where someone forgot to talk. The kind where you wonder if anyone is even there. Then I heard a man breathing. Slow, weak, almost painful. Finally, he spoke. "I need 4 large pepperoni pizzas." His voice sounded distant, like he was talking from the other end of a long tunnel. "I'm sorry, sir," I said. "We're already closed." Another long pause. Then he quietly said, "I'll pay extra." That changed everything. A 4-pizza order usually came with a good tip, and I really needed the money that week. I looked at my manager. He shrugged. "If you want the tip, take it." So I did. The address was about 25 minutes outside town. I'd never delivered there before, but the GPS recognized it immediately. The cooks made the pizzas while I packed my delivery bag. 10 minutes later, I was on the road. At first, everything looked normal. Gas stations, traffic lights, late-night diners. Then the buildings disappeared. The highway became a 2-lane road. The 2-lane road became gravel. Soon, there was nothing but trees on both sides. No houses, no streetlights, no other cars. Just my headlights cutting through the darkness. I checked the address again. It was correct. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. I told myself I was just tired. A few more minutes passed before my GPS announced, "You have arrived." I stopped the car and looked ahead. An old Victorian house stood alone in the middle of the woods. It looked forgotten. The porch leaned to one side. The windows were covered with dirt. Weeds had swallowed the front yard. It honestly looked like nobody had lived there for years. I grabbed my phone and called my manager. No answer. I called again, straight to voicemail. I thought about leaving, but I had already driven all the way out there. Besides, I wanted the tip. I picked up the pizzas and walked toward the porch. Every step made the old wooden boards creak beneath my feet. I reached the front door and pressed the doorbell. Nothing. I waited. Still nothing. I knocked harder. "Pizza delivery." Silence. I was about to turn around when I heard footsteps. Slow. Heavy. They came closer to the door, then stopped. I waited another few seconds. Nobody opened it. "Seriously?" I muttered. I turned to leave. Then, creak! The front door slowly opened on its own. I stood there, frozen. At that exact moment, a single light switched on somewhere inside the house. I should have walked away. Instead, I stepped inside. The living room was dimly lit by an old lamp. The air smelled damp. Dust covered the furniture. The place felt abandoned. "Hello?" I called. "I've got your pizzas." No answer. Then something rushed past my feet. I jumped. A black cat ran out from under an old couch and disappeared into a room down the hallway. The second it crossed the doorway, the lights in that room suddenly turned on. An old television flickered to life. Then I heard it. 2 little girls laughing. I forced myself to keep walking. Maybe this wasn't as strange as it seemed. Maybe the kids were home alone. I stepped into the room. 2 little girls sat cross-legged on the floor. They looked about 7 or 8 years old. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them smiled. They just stared at me without blinking. "Hey," I said. "I've been knocking for a while. Is one of your parents home?" Neither girl answered.
The room became completely silent. Then, very slowly, both girls smiled. Their smiles stretched far wider than they should have, and their eyes turned completely white. Without saying a single word, they both raised one finger and pointed behind me. My heart nearly stopped. I didn't want to turn around, but I did. Standing in the doorway was a tall woman with long black hair covering her face. She wasn't moving. She was just standing there, watching me.
For a second, I couldn't breathe. The woman didn't move. She didn't blink. She just stood there with her head slightly tilted, as if she had been waiting for me. The room suddenly felt freezing cold. The television exploded into loud static, and the two little girls started laughing again. This time, it didn't sound like children. It sounded wrong. I dropped the pizza boxes and ran. I didn't care about the money anymore. I shoved the front door open and sprinted toward my car. My hands were shaking so badly that I dropped my keys twice before I finally unlocked the door. I jumped inside, locked every door, and started the engine. Before pulling away, I looked back at the house. The front door was still open. The woman and the two girls were standing together on the porch. They weren't chasing me. They were just watching. That somehow scared me even more. I slammed my foot on the gas and sped down the dirt road. I kept checking the rearview mirror, expecting to see headlights behind me. There were none. Only darkness. I had driven less than a mile when my steering wheel suddenly started shaking. Then came a loud bang. The car swerved to the side and rolled to a stop. No, no, no. I climbed out and looked at the front tire. It was completely flat. There were no sharp rocks, no nails. It looked as if the air had simply disappeared. My phone still had 1 bar of signal. I called 911. The operator answered almost immediately. 911, what's your emergency? I tried to explain everything, but I sounded completely out of breath. I think someone's following me. I'm on an old dirt road outside Mill Creek. My car broke down. She asked me to stay calm and told me officers were on the way. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. Sir, don't move. I frowned. What? We're hearing someone else breathing on your phone. I froze. I'm alone. The operator didn't answer for a second. Then she quietly asked, Sir, is there someone standing behind your car? My heart nearly stopped. Very slowly, I turned toward my rearview mirror. They were there. The woman, the two little girls, standing only a few feet behind my car. None of them moved. None of them blinked. The operator kept talking, but I couldn't hear her anymore. The woman slowly lifted one hand. She pointed toward the woods. Then, all three of them started walking toward me. I ran. I left my car behind and disappeared into the trees. Branches scratched my face. Roots kept tripping me. I didn't dare look back. After what felt like forever, I hid behind a huge oak tree and covered my mouth with both hands, trying not to make a sound. Everything went quiet. Too quiet. Then, I heard footsteps. Slow. Crunch, crunch, crunch. They were getting closer. I closed my eyes. A few seconds later, police sirens echoed through the forest. The footsteps stopped. When I opened my eyes, the woods were empty. I ran toward the flashing lights as fast as I could. 2 sheriff's deputies were waiting beside my car. I told them everything, every single detail. They exchanged a quick look but didn't laugh. Instead, they asked me to show them the house. We drove back together. The front door was wide open. Inside, the house was silent. Every room was covered in dust. No footprints, no television, no lights, no woman, no little girls. The only living thing inside was a black cat sitting in the middle of the hallway. It stared at us for a few seconds, then disappeared into the darkness. The deputies searched the entire property. Nothing. One of them finally said, "This place has been empty for years." The next morning, I couldn't stop thinking about what happened. So I went to the county library and searched old newspaper archives. I found the house almost immediately. 3 years earlier, a woman named Emily Carter had lived there with her 2 daughters. One night, all 3 of them were found murdered inside the house. The case shocked the entire county. The killer was never caught. I stared at the newspaper for a long time. The photograph showed the family standing on the front porch. Emily and her 2 little girls. They were the same faces I had seen the night before. I quit my job that afternoon. People still ask why I never delivered another pizza. I usually smile and change the subject, because the truth sounds impossible. But every now and then, I wake up in the middle of the night after hearing my phone ring, and for 1 second, I swear I can still hear that weak voice whisper, "I'd like to order 4 large pepperoni pizzas."